What's up? Welcome back. I'm John Stark, MacMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic, and today I'm going to be tackling Larger Than Life, the Bill Murray movie. Wait, no, it's not it. This is Larger Than Life, Reign of the Boy Bands. It's currently available on Paramount Plus. It's a new documentary, 2024, and it does have audio description, which is great because I'm blind. So even though I love listening to just boy band music, I do. I love getting into that dirty pop, but I still needed the audio description. I wasn't always sure who was talking. It's not great audio description because of that, because I was like, I don't know who this is. Who are you? Who are you? Why are you speaking? It wasn't always clear to me. I wasn't really surprised that like some of the people who signed up to speak. It does seem kind of, I mean, like Donnie Wahlberg does get work, so it's cool that they got him to speak for New Kids, but it's funny that like Chris Kirkpatrick, guess who's not here? I'll give you a hint. His initials are JT. Um, so yeah, they obviously they were only able to get certain people who were wanted to talk about the boy band experience, which is fine because this documentary, while it tries to say it's about reign of the boy bands like over the course of time, it really focuses on two boy bands and how those two boy bands battled. Uh, it does spend quite a little bit of time on New Kids on the Block, briefly touching, I would say, for a while on the uniqueness of the Jackson Five and the Osmonds and how they were related. And it does touch on some other groups. There's about 2 minutes dedicated to 98 Degrees. New additions in here for maybe about 3 to 4 minutes. Five tops. Jonas Brothers, briefly touched on them. One Direction briefly touches on them. Gives about 5 minutes to One Direction, 5 minutes to Jonas Brothers. Most of this is Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. It even has to kind of like blast through the other boy bands. It really only acknowledges that 98 Degrees ever existed, and a lot of the other boy bands just get like mentions. And then I was kind of frustrated with it because it didn't even mention some of the other ones, like LFO. I like girls that wear Abercrombie and Fitch. I take it if I had one wish. That one. And ironically, it didn't acknowledge, while it's talking about Reign of the Boy Bands, it didn't talk about making the band, which is kind of like, sort of shows the, if anything, like the pinnacle of hype around boy bands. The fact that there was a reality show to create one that created the group O-Town, which is not mentioned here. So, yeah. And no, does it get into all of the Lou Pearlman stuff? Not really. No, I mean, it just kind of like casually like seems to like throw shade, but if you're not really up on it, you wouldn't know why they're throwing shade. It would be very confusing to you. So, um, I'm not like, I came into this obviously because I was interested in the material and the perspective and what it had to say, and it wasn't a like a limited series like Dirty Pop where I was going to have to commit to like multiple episodes. Um, but it did kind of have a cursory. Maybe this should be. Maybe I do need to give Dirty Pop a chance on Netflix, and see what that's like. But this just it kind of feels like the Cliff Notes version, but then the Cliff Notes version clearly just really wants to talk about Backstreet Boys and NSYNC, and that being the, like, at peak pinnacle time, girls would go out and they'd buy like multiple copies of the same album because they wanted their boy band to be on top, to be setting the records. It was crazy. We spend time on that instead of talking about like All for One. Boys to Men gets like a mention. Like 98 Degrees is like, we were heavily influenced by Boys to Men. I was like, yeah, where was Boys to Men, by the way? Are we just not considering them a boy band? Like, because I kind of thought they were when I listened to them anyway. I was a big fan of Boys to Men back in the day, you know. But they just got mentioned as being influences to 98 Degrees. That's really sad. That is really sad. So I came into this with all of the, hope and excited possibilities for what this documentary could give me, and I kind of walked out of here going, so I'm guessing our director really was interested in the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC thing, but didn't want to make like just a rivalry doc. So they tried to expand it, and this is what we get: is it a documentary that feels like, oh yeah, we'll talk about all the boy bands, but Backstreet Boys and NSYNC though, those are the groups. Um, So here's a little mention of K-pop towards the end, but again, it's like K-pop is like a huge phenomenon right now, and they spend again like 5 minutes on it, like 5 minutes on One Direction, 5 minutes on Jonas Brothers. A significant portion, I would say the third most featured group is probably New Kids on the Block in here. That gets like the most amount of time talked about, discussed, dove into. They even take time to mention like Spice Girls and Justin Bieber as like peripheral references. Like they're like, well, the Spice Girls were popular in the US, so we had to come back from Europe. And I was like, what do the Spice Girls have to do with anything? You're not in direct competition with the Spice Girls, you know? So then Justin Bieber obviously as a solo act, they're like, well, he came up on YouTube and changed the game. Other people came up on YouTube too. Are you going to mention any of them? Like anyone, any Bueller? Anyway, yeah, this is not my favorite documentary of the year. It's been a strong year for documentaries, and this feels like content creation to me. I use that term a lot because I feel like these streaming services, they hire filmmakers and they're like, ooh, you know what? These would be some hot topics to talk about. Clickbait movies, basically. And it worked. They were like, oh, people like boy bands. Make a documentary about boy bands. And while I was unwilling to watch the limited series Dirty Pop on Netflix about boy bands, Paramount Plus got me by shrinking it into a movie, which also meant several boy bands were left out, whether they liked Abercrombie, girls who like Abercrombie and Fitch or not. So yeah, I think this could have been better. I think it could have been more comprehensive. I think it could have had a more even look at boy bands. I think what you needed somebody sort of like from Rolling Stone, like a music historian, to come in here and really, instead of like being like, okay, well, we cast a net, and who are the people who are willing to participate? Well, let's focus on those groups. Let's focus on those stories. I think that's too much of what I think you're thinking too many people will show up because Chris Kirkpatrick is talking in this. And it's like, I live in Orlando, and before I could see, I can't tell you how many times I've seen Chris Kirkpatrick and Joey Fatone. Like, they're just walking around. Like, it's just, you can literally just run into Joey Fatone. I've run into him multiple times. I have swiped his credit card before. I've literally been a cashier for Joey Fatone, and just like, okay, well, saw his sister do karaoke. Like, these are not hard things to do, but like to everyone else, it feels like it's like, listen, if you want to just live your NSYNC life, they're here. They just one of my friends auditioned to be a magic or a magic dancer. Chris Kirkpatrick was one of the judges, so. Yeah, they're just come on down. But this documentary doesn't do anything for me. So I'm going to give Larger Than Life, Reign of the Boy Bands a C. I think it definitely could have done a better job. It just kind of feels like I just watched clickbait. So average would be the thing I would give it. I mean, it could have been worse. It could have just been like, we're going to talk about boy bands, but we're only going to talk about New Kids and no one else. Just like one boy band, not even the one that people think they're going to talk about. So Hanson is mentioned here, by the way. So it's not even just boy bands who can't play instruments. They were also boy bands who could play instruments. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I appreciate you. Let me know what you think in the comments. What was your favorite boy band? Who'd you listen to? Give me some solid needle drops. Drop that Westlife in there. Drop, uh, I don't know. Um, well, I don't whatever your favorite boy, the boy band du jour, if you will. Hey Hey, we're the Monkeys. They're a boy band. Any of your favorites in the comments, and I will see you guys on the other side.